Yashodanandana Braja Janaram Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Kunja Bihari Radha Kunja Bihari Hari Jai Jagannath Jai Jagannath Jai Bhavati Mai Subhadra Jaya Srinatha Ji Jaya Baba Gopal Jaya Srinatha Ji Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Prabhupada Jai Srila Prabhupada Jai Jai Gurudev 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 Jai Jai Gurudev Jai Om Shrimadbhagavatam Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Astodra Satyashishi Maharaj Divine Grace Founder of ISKCON, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam Ki Their most merciful Lordship Shri Shriradhakunja Bihari Ki Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mai Subhadra Ki Shri Nataji Shri Balagopal Ki Shri Gaurnitai Ki Nitai Go Premanand
Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembled
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the Lord, the Spirit of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamajiraya Nasta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistaki. Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 38. Text 38. Iti. Oh, Om Namo Bhagavate. Did we chant?
Yes.
Oh, we did. I can't remember that. Just 2 seconds ago. Iti. Murti. Abhidanena. Iti Murti Abhidanena. Mantra. Murtim. Amurtikam. Mantra Murtim Amurtikam. Yajate. Yajna. Purusam. Yajate Yajna Purusam. Samyak Darshana Puma Samyak Darshana Puma Iti Murti Abhidanena Mantra Murti Mamurtikam Yajate Yajna Purusham Samyak Darshana Puma Iti Murti Abhidanena Iti Murti Abhidanena Mantra Murti Mamurtikam Mantra Murti Mamurtikam Yajate Yajna Purusham Yajate Yajna Purusham Samsayak Darshana Puma Samsamyak Darshana Puma. Please chant.
Iti Murtya Vidanena
Iti Murti Abhidanena
Mantra Murti Mamurtikam
Mantra Murti Mamurtikam
Yajate Yajya Purusham
Yajate Yajna Purusham
Samyak Darshana Puman
Samsamyak Darshana Puma
Iti Murti Abhidanena
Iti Murti Abhidanena
Mantra Murti
Mantra Murti Mamurtikam
Yajate Yajna Purusham
Yajate Mantra Purusham
Samyak Darshana Puman
Samsamyak Darshana Puma. Iti. Thus. Murti. Representation. Abhidanena. In sound. Mantra Murtim.
Mantra Murtim
Form representation of transcendental sound.
Form representation of transcendental sound
Amurtikam.
Amurtikam
The Lord who has no material form.
The Lord who has no material form
Yajate. Worshipped. Yajna. Vishnu. Purusham. The personality of Godhead. Sa. He alone. Samyak. Perfectly. Darshana. One who has seen. Umam. Person. Iti Murti Abhidanena Mantra Murti Mamurtikam Yajate Yajna Purusham Samsamyak Darshana Puman. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhacharnadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thus, he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form. Please repeat. Thus, he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound, representation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form. Thus he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form. Purport. Our present senses are all made of material elements, and therefore they are imperfect in realizing the transcendental form of Lord Vishnu. He's therefore worshipped by sound representation via the transcendental method of chanting. Anything which is beyond the scope of experience by our imperfect senses can be realized fully by the sound representation. A person transmitting sound from a far distant place can be factually experienced. If this is materially possible, why not spiritually? This experience is not a vague, impersonal experience. It is actually an experience of the transcendental personality of Godhead, who possesses the pure form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. In the Amara Kosh Sanskrit dictionary, the word murti carries import in twofold meanings, namely form and difficulty. Therefore, amurtikam is explained by Acharya Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as meaning without difficulty. Normally when you put an A in front of the word in Sanskrit, it means the opposite of what the word would otherwise mean. So this is without rather than with. So without difficulty. The transcendental form of eternal bliss and knowledge can be experienced by our original spiritual senses, which can be revived by chanting of the holy mantras or transcendental sound representations. Such sounds should be received from the transparent agency of the bona fide spiritual master. And the chanting may be practiced by the direction of the spiritual master. That will gradually lead us nearer to the Lord. This method of worship is recommended in the Pancharatrika system, which is both recognized and authorized. The Pancharatrika system has the most authorized codes for transcendental devotional service. Without the help of such codes, one cannot approach the Lord. Certainly not by dry philosophical speculation. The Pancharatrika system is both practical and suitable for this age of quarrel. The Pancharatrika is more important than the Vedanta for this modern age. Om Jnanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshusunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. The last statement is quite a statement being made here. The Pancharatric system is both practical and suitable for this age of quarrel. The Pancharatra is more important than the Vedanta for this modern age. The Pancharatra is the advice given for us to be able to follow the instructions of the Bhagavatam in the forms of worship that are being made available to us, to the personal form of Krishna. So this is what's being explained here. We read about the pastimes and everything, which give us realization. We can take part with Krishna. And that's what the Pancharatrik gives us the knowledge of, and the mantras to experience the relationship. And that's what we do on the altar. You're touching Krishna's body on the altar. You're putting cloth on Krishna's body. You're bathing Krishna's body. You're offering incense. All these things that you're doing directly to the Supreme Person himself. And so that is why that direct contact, in effect, is more important than just the writing, reading the writings about them, just like cooking and cleaning and all this. It's the application of what we learn. So the learning is necessary, but the application of the learning is even more important, which is what this is basically bringing to our attention. But in so doing, then, we realize as well, if the reading itself, which is telling us about the chanting itself, giving us realization about the spiritual senses which we have to be able to experience Krishna with. This purport is telling us that. Then, how much more the experience of those spiritual senses are going to be known by us by the application of these principles and by the engagement in these activities. So, even though we're using imperfect senses in our study, because in our study then, we're meditating, we're thinking about the pastimes we're reading about. But in the application comes the perfection of the present experience in the here and now. And that's the energy that quickens the soul to realizing what it is doing and what part it has in the promotion of Krishna's desires and the fulfillment of what he's explaining for us to do. So he's giving us all these activities to engage in, to experience him, to experience what we've been talking about for the past few days now, the relationship. It's all based on relationship, right? And so now, just like a friend we haven't seen for a long time, we make preparations to go see. We have anticipation to see. We think about experiences we've had in the past with things we've done together. So this is Krishna also. Think about it. We've been eternally existing. This short period of time, the millions and millions of years that we've spent in this energy, this external energy of Krishna trying to enjoy him, separate from him. It's a flash in a moment. And then this application puts us in that consciousness, gives us the realization of eternity. This is what we want to have the use of, the eternal senses of the spiritual soul. And so it comes with the application of the process being explained here in the Pancharatrik. Now, I was explaining yesterday, and this is coming to my mind as that it has to be a fact. I cannot help but believe that these mantras being given in the future volumes of Shrimadbhagavatam, 6th canto, 7th canto, 8th canto, the Narayana Kavacha, there are also other mantras given for protections, and we also sing this song to Lord Nrsimhadev in the morning. So we probably don't give it, as we become more and more familiar with it, it becomes like just a song that we sing through the day, like a song we wouldn't sing if we're having happy experience in life. But this song is a song of protection. The Lord Nishrini, that very form of God that he chose to take in his manifesting his ability to overcome very mysteriously, in fact, as well, one who had taken over the control of the entire universe. Hiranyakasipu, he had done that. And his brother was in a body such that he could actually upset, as I was speaking the other day, the whole earth and its position in the universe, which in fact may still have been, because it is said that Varaha, who is Krishna himself as well, had to pick that form up from the earth, from out of the ocean. So the question in my mind then comes, which I'm going to ask Krishna about, did he put it back in the same way that it was? Because it could very well be that in his putting it back, then Hiranyakasipu would have been taking the karma. Think about that. He upset this earth's balance, if he did this. So, don't take it my speculation, I'm saying he did it. So if he did it, at some point in the earth's existence, it happened. But however it happened, it has changed the lives of all those living entities that came. Some people died because of the cold. Some people have died because of the storms that have been caused. All these things we consider as normal events in the world, tornadoes, hurricanes, all these events. See, they give them names, right? Yes.
That's what caused the tilt.
What?
When
Hiranyaksha?
Hiranyakashipu,
Hiranyakashipu and them are brothers.
his brother, when his
Jai
brother
and Vijay, the gatekeepers of the Vaikuntha dwelling. They manifest in this world 3 times. And both of them as brothers.
That's what caused the tilt.
I'm not sure of that.
Oh, wow.
But it's possible. See, there's other account that the earth went through floods at different times in history. Partial floods, total floods. The Bible called the total flood by those who wrote the Bible and put the Bible into written form. So, whether it was a total, it seems like it wasn't, because if you study the landmass, see, the rest of the world and the civilizations who dwell on the other continents of the world don't have the same histories of that happening. And especially like in India, there are still castles standing older than 10,000 years that have their histories written on the walls of them, which have no evidence whatsoever. There is still Hiranyakasipu's, the building, the castle he was in, where Lord Nrsimhadev appeared out of the pillar. That pillar is still there. That was millions of years ago. So see, this flood is not necessarily encompassing the entire planet at that time, even though there are histories of it having been totally submerged. But this is by the inaccuracy, again, of our own senses, of the imperfection of the senses of those who are receiving higher knowledge and not able to fully comprehend way to be able to transmit it into the languages that of the people that they're giving the knowledge to. And then when you have when you have motives by people who are taking these literatures and want them to be put into mean what they want it to mean, then you have that as well incorporated into the writings of those who are not perfected and whose senses have not been perfected. And so then we get from the very teachings that tell us the names of God shouldn't be changed. We use the names of God directly in order to develop that relationship with Krishna. Then when we chant Lord Nrsingadeva's mantra, we are experiencing him as our protector. And so, as a protector, fighting against evil, we see that Krishna has anger. Lord Nrsingadeva is Krishna's anger. So just like Balaram, Krishna's brother, is manifesting that aspect of Krishna's own personality that is his strength. And so he reveals that strength of his in its completeness has to be manifest in a complete form. So then, he takes the form of love that Gopal, Krishna, is, then he reveals himself in a different way, developing different relationships. Then on the battlefield, the relationships that Bhima, as a warrior, had with other members of the battlefield, accordingly, they were either enemies or friends. Same way we do that with Krishna, and they all did that with Krishna. And Krishna, when they spoke his name, that way in which his name was spoken was immediately picked up by Krishna, by them being either friends or enemies. Of course, he's super soul in them as well. But see, Duryodhana, when he spoke Krishna's name, he was speaking mockingly. So, see, we can realize what kind of qualities are in a person's life by the way they speak of Krishna. Just like we were talking about Sadhguru. You might be familiar with Sadhguru. Well, Sadhguru considers Krishna to be, what does he call him, the most mystical yogi? Highest mystic. The highest mystic. See, that's a profound statement to make about God. But it's a true statement. So, in some ways, he might not use the term God. And in some ways, I don't know that Krishna likes the term God being used the way that it has been used by so many, misrepresenting, which is why Srila Prabhupada many times takes a lot of idioms, I'll call them, word combinations put together that they be accepted in certain spiritual paths in India as the way to revere someone who is of a spiritual mind, like Jagaguru. They call every sannyasi Jagaguru. Jagaguru means Guru of the universe. Means Lord Jagannath. So Srila Prabhupada didn't like this term being used towards him, but here is our song, Jagaguru. He's my Lord, birth after birth, speaking of the spiritual master as well. But the way the spiritual master develops a relationship with the disciple enables that as well to be a very unique experience for the disciple to have, and they both appreciate one another's relationship that way as it grows and develops. So just like everybody has quirks, right? We all have different things. We all do things in a little bit different way than everybody else does, right? That peculiarity about us, that uniqueness about us is a taste. It's a taste that we give others when we have association with each other. And so then they remember us for that taste that we give to each other in our relationship, in our friendships. And this experience that human beings are supposed to be having with each other, flavoring our lives, is explained in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which gives us psychologically a viewpoint towards looking at relationships a little differently than what normal human beings look at human relationships as being. And for the most part, especially in the business world, relationships are based on, I'll do as much for you as you can do for me. Right? It's kind of like that. And then if you stop doing for me, well then we might be not as close friends as I thought we were. We'll not talk as often as we used to, and like that. The relationship wears off because we're all looking for perfection in everything, in all our relationships, in all of our pursuits. And then when we find that the person we thought was perfect is not, then, oh boy, they failed me now. You know? We see this in leadership positions, and people reveal their imperfections, and then all of a sudden now they're not a hero. Hero today, enemy tomorrow. This is what's happening in the political scene. Even they make friends and become the closest of friends one day, and then a year later they're enemies. This is happening. So this is not love. It's not eternal love. And it's not based on purity of the kind of love we want to experience with Krishna. His is the purest love there is. And unless we experience love, then we're not going to have a human experience. Love is unique in cognizant recognition of its being to the human experience. Think about it. The animals, they do it by force of nature, which is actually lust. It's a type of lust that the body says, I want to do this, I want to go do this, I want to go do that. But service to Krishna is of a completely different nature altogether. And it's a conscious effort to constantly become better and better at it as well,
Yes.
which makes the relationship, yeah. And not constantly demanding more, but constantly wanting to do better. And in that effort, then, Super Soul is with us, pursuing that with us. What does it say? Oh, I can do all things through Christ. It's talking about God in us, Christ being the spiritual being who is superior to all other beings, who is sharing his body with us. God, the giver of all life, from whom all life is emanating. And knowing that he is sharing his body with us, then everything becomes possible. And not only that, but everything works together for the good. If we are on that path to serve Krishna, because everything's under his control. We are so fortunate. And to have this knowledge then puts us in our minds in a place of safety. Bombs can be going off. World War II, I think it was. They were telling Srila Prabhupada, we have to go to the bomb shelter now. No, I'm cooking for Krishna. I'm cooking some rice. Krishna's hungry. We have to take care of Krishna first. This is the mentality of a devotee. If we don't feed Krishna, then he'll have to go steal some butter somewhere. So we want to give him the butter without him having to run off and steal from his girlfriend. Krishna is amazing. But see, that relationship that's being revealed to us in this world, we have to remember, it's being revealed to us in this world according to time and circumstance, that we are also experiencing time and circumstance. So even though we're reading it as these are souls engaging in an eternal relationship with Krishna, we're seeing it as happening temporarily for a moment. But these are eternal. See, when we talk about when the cowherd boys and the cows, Brahma stole them for what was a moment of his. They were gone for a year of hours. So that one moment of his, like blinking of his eyes, was a moment here. So see, we have no concept of what is experienced in the spiritual world. What is experienced there is going on, is lasting a long, long time. So what is it? 500 years is 500 of their days. 6 months a night, 6 months a day and 6 months a night makes a year for a complete day. So Lord Chaitanya has only been gone like 500, what's it going on now? 1486. Lord Chaitanya appeared. And we're going on a pretty round number here. That'd be a 9 maybe. 86, so 539, is it? 539 years. So that's just 539 days to the demigods. And when they came to watch Krishna, that was 5,000. What's that? 5 years, 10 years or so, 10 years maybe, of theirs ago. They're still keeping record. Think about this. Every soul, even in its most fallen state, is proof of the effects of laws broken, of God's laws. So Krishna can take the most fallen and use their life as an example. So then he turns his enemies into his friends like that. Just like he did with Jarasandha, gathering all these demons so that they would all be rounded up and Krishna would liberate them. Because who he kills personally, he liberates. And though he's taking the part of a demon, Jarasandha, he's performing devotional activities for Krishna. Because he's rounding up all these demons. And so Krishna, in his infinite love, accredits his enemy with engaging in his devotional service by doing that activity. See, all of us here are rightfully deserving of death. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, subject to death. So, in effect, even those who are committing abominable murders to other human beings, which we look at as crimes, which they are, we're not supposed to take Krishna's laws into our own hands. But from another perspective, they are also carrying out what justice would have done if they didn't do it. because justice is going to be the end of our lives. We're going to have to go through that process called death because we have put ourselves into this position by our consciousness. By our consciousness. So for somebody to put it out faster, shorter, just brings on justice that much more rapidly. And see, in the way of capital punishment being looked at by most members of society as some cruel punishment, it's actually more merciful to the soul who is going to be relieved of some of the punishment. And especially since, if you're given a month to live, in your mind, every day of that month, you will have suffered a death, kind of dying. If you're given 2 days, you only die twice before you get to your final death. So see, when they say capital punishment is cruel, all the punishment you experience here for it removes that has to be given to you that karma would otherwise justifiably have to be doled out. But when you remove yourself from karma altogether by engaging in the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that karma doesn't have any reaction on you anymore. That's why Krishna is telling us, asking us, pleading with us, even you might say by these scriptures, to give us a realization of how beneficial it will be for us to just engage in these simple activities of singing and dancing, reading, studying, eating only those kinds of foods that are beneficial for spiritual advancement, and coming to learn the flavors that a human being is supposed to have as a human experience, that God meant for the human being to be able to experience, that we have cut ourselves off from by wanting to live separate from God. That's how we got here. But here not meaning the temple, here meaning the material world. Then even being in it as separate, we can see it as a part of Krishna because of the consciousness we are in enables us to see it for what it really is. Because even though it's the place of death, morta loka, still the earth is Mother Bhumi, who is the wife of Lord Vishnu, who is herself as sacred as there is. And anything coming from her then is part of her body, made in such a way that it'll all go back to her. So, the earth as a place of death because of consciousness of the living entities who have to go through that experience. But it's the place of sacred relationship with the one from whom everything comes, for all those living entities who have that consciousness, who are you, in all those souls on the planet that are taking Krishna as their friend, as their guide, as their lover, as their giver of wisdom, as their most powerful mystic sage, internal share of peace and happiness, and giver of all truth, justice, righteousness, protection. This is Krishna. And now, all he's asking us to do is be able to experience him, experience his presence, experience his love for us. That's all what this is for. It's all what the scriptures are written for. Yeah. And we have it. Every moment now it's available to us. Been written for us. Because we chose to come here, Krishna went out of his way to get us back home. Of course, he's going to have fun doing it.
I missed that last stage.
He's going to have fun, his own fun, doing it. Krishna doesn't change being unlimited bliss because we fall away, because we choose to experience something other than we are. He doesn't. But then when he sees us and is within the bodies we are, knowing we are experiencing the pain and suffering that we're going through, then he makes it possible for us to come back and get out of that. Because he cares, because he's love, because he's the source of love, the source of all power. Imagine having the ability to heal everyone of every disease, cure everyone of everything that they're having a problem with. And all it takes is coming in contact with him. But not for that purpose. We want to come in contact with Krishna because he wants us to. He wants us more than we want to. He's called us here to himself and pulled us by the heartstring. Pulled those little tugs in our heart that we have. We want to know what truth is. We want to know what love is. We want to know what perfection is. And here we are now to find it. And Krishna is revealing that he is that in completeness, in perfection. And every aspect of his personality that we want to know about in perfection, he makes available by all these expansions of his own personality. You want to know what love is? Look at Shrimati Radharani. You want to know what strength is? Look at Balaram. You want to know what mercy is? Look at Nityananda Prabhu. You want to know what universal acceptance is and neutrality is to all forms of life? Look at Lord Jagannath. All these aspects of Krishna's own personality are being revealed in their completeness through this Krishna consciousness. And you can say, God is himself making himself a reward for us. He's the greatest reward you can have. You want to make comparisons of the value of anybody. What's more valuable than God himself? And that's what he's making available to us. Relationship with him is him. Because we can't leave him, we can't get apart from him because he's sharing his body with us. Can't get away. So love is here to stay. And that love is eternal, that we can experience. And that blinking of an eye in that spiritual realm. See, all that experience of pleasure and happiness we've had for what we thought was a long time in this world is just a passing of a moment. And when we know the eternalness of the bliss that we're made of, when we know that experience, we'll know it will be greater than the full combination of everything we've called happiness in this material world combined for the short period of time we've been here. And what Krishna did with the gopis, he piles all that up into one moment with him, more than they can contain, so that even when they get away from him, then they're having delusions of grandeur about Krishna being in everything. Everything is so much a part of Krishna to them. They can't forget him at any moment. They don't even want to blink when they look at him. Because he's so pulling them into his being, into His presence. He is so satisfying to see and to be with. Yeah. That's where we want to get to, that mentality. So, is it? I can't tell. Sometimes I'm looking at that, if it's the second hand I'm looking at, or is it the minute hand? Is that the second hand's moving? Yeah, it's not 9:15, it's 9:10. But I guess that leaves room for questions. And extra prashadam if we don't ask questions. Any comment? Is everybody getting realizations, though, through the day? You see things differently, right, spiritually, with Krishna. It gives us a whole different perspective on everything. You can read a newspaper now and find spiritual conclusions. Everything has a spiritual perspective in Krishna consciousness that the mind has to be trained to see. And once it does, my God, everything is about God. Everything's about Krishna now, So you can't miss out. So when you're leaving your body, if everything's been about Krishna for your whole life anyways, the last moment's not going to be anything different. Krishna's going to be there to do that, just as much as he is right now and at every moment. We have a great, fortunate future to look forward to, as long as we simply stay on the path, keep our minds pure. We know the process to do that. And thereby it's guaranteed by Krishna, we will taste the highest taste with consciousness by relationship with Krishna. That's where the real taste that we will experience love with, that comes from. The experience of the taste of love will only come from the spiritual senses we have to experience with, because love is itself a spiritual energy. So we can only experience the reality of love with spiritual senses. That's actually what this is pointing out as well, that we do have spiritual senses. And see, even when we do dream, we're still limited to some extent. Maybe you've had the experience of flying. You ever flown in a dream? I've ridden a bicycle that had the ability to fly. And what I would do in my dream, I would pedal just a little faster than it took to get just above their fingers' reaches. They were reaching to pull me down, and I was pedaling just high enough to just out of the reach of their fingers to pull me down. So that was my dream. But see, even in those dreams, that our abilities as souls are somewhat manifest. They're still limited by our experiences here in this world. I don't know that there's bicycles that you fly on in the spiritual world, but the ability to fly is there. But the need is not there. The ability, but not the need. See, that becomes true here as well. We gain ability, just like I told you. If you want it, I have an AI robot that can make unlimited amounts of money if you want it. I don't want it. I don't need it. See, we have the abilities. Don't have to. Use them if you don't want them. And that's how the spiritual world is. You gain abilities to perform functions that no longer become important to you anymore. I don't have to run down, go out, eat somewhere in a dining restaurant that has some kind of great ambiance. I don't need to do that anymore. I used to think I did. I think that was, in my mind, a matter of prestige,
Okay.
Now I'm elevated in society. I'm of the higher echelon of society now. I can eat somebody else's cooking. I don't have to do it myself. It's crazy nonsense. It's all a false ego. It's all our false egos that give us, in a mass way, we have agreed as a society to believe these things. And so we cripple ourselves as a society to experience family with each other, to experience personal love, pure love with each other, wanting what is best for all of us and for all of the people of the world, to have the best of everything that there is to be able to have with these human forms. But see, everybody's not thinking like that. We may take for granted, because we have these kind of friendships with each other, that everybody thinks like that, but everybody doesn't. And we got to help them have these kinds of friendships too, because they are eternal. Love is that eternal force that all scriptures are given to humankind to be able to experience with each other, to make us the kind of human beings that God, who is love, wants us to be. Even to the extent that wars have to be fought sometimes for that to be established. But we have hope that the greatest war, these are our weapons. These are the greatest weapons we have. The chanting, this Maha Mantra. And the Maha Mantra is itself our greatest weapon. Yeah. Because it fights through Maya, the illusion of Maya itself, to give us a real vision of what human life is meant to experience.
That's what in Bhagavatam also it is mentioned, like Prabhu, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shata, like Krishna Varnam Josha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Pashvaram Yagnai Sankirtanai Praya Yajanti Sumedasa.
You want to say it in English so we all know what it says?
Yeah, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is not different from Krishna, is appeared in the golden complexion with all his associates and weapon as Sankirtana movement.
Now, see, the fact that he's being called the golden avatar clicks in my mind now as directly related to the golden age. See, age referring to a particular time in history which the effects of the modes of material energy are allowed, because of the lack of knowledge, to influence human beings in this age more so than ever. But the effect of Krishna's name now, because he is giving more power to them than ever before, can overcome this illusory force more than ever before, to give this planet the boost it needs to turn it into the heavenly planet it's going to be turned into. See, I had another realization about this planet being turned over to the rule by the one they're calling Jesus. Because as the son of Indra, he was calling his disciples sons of thunder. He was calling them, right? But then remember, when they went out on the ship and there was a storm, he calmed the storm. That's also Indra. And see, as his son, if Indra's in control of all the planets, he could give his son one of them. And empower his son to make it into a heavenly planet. That's the plan. That's what's going to happen. That's what this planet is meant to be turned into. See, the same way it can be submerged. Who lifted it up? Vraha. Krishna can lift this planet up. If he lifted it up from under the milk ocean, he can bring it up all the way into the heavenly dwellings. And what will do that? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This mantra will bring us as well. It's lighter than the soul itself. See, if we consider by gradation the finite, the infinitesimally subtle form that each of these forms of energy are: earth, water, fire, air, ether, intelligence, mind, false ego, the soul, more subtle than that. Yeah. And that's the senses we're trying to tap into to know Krishna's love, is the senses of the soul. But if we, as souls, being engrossed by, even in our consciousness, by the gross materialistic conceptualizations, which Krishna never has been fooled by, then how much more finite and subtle Krishna is than we are. And so the lightness of that name that he is will lift us. This is the meaning of Garuda, because Garuda is Krishna's energy also, taking the form of that carrier of Krishna's. But he's also Krishna's energy made out of Krishna's sound. Same way his name is revealing to us. All-powerful. Krishna is all-powerful. The name, all-powerful, non-different than Krishna himself.
Paraphernalia is pastimes and entourage.
And see how the realization of it comes natural, doesn't it? When you start just thinking about it, suddenly it all starts like a puzzle piece. Wow. Krishna's doing all this for us and wants us to have the greatest experience human life has to offer. All we got to do is apply it and do what he says to do. And we will have that experience. We will get pure love as the experience and reward from God's own embrace. Lord Chaitanya would embrace devotees. That's a good bumper sticker. Have you embraced God yet? Have you embraced God yet? Yeah, that would be a good bumper sticker. Just in our minds thinking of the day. The day will come. Krishna will embrace you. Think about that. That'll be a day. That'll be the day.
As Buddy Holly said.
That'll be the day when I die. See, we can look forward to leaving these bodies. Who does?
Yeah.
Who looks forward to leaving the body? It's like the most disastrous thing that could ever happen, a calamity.
Right.
No. The way devotee sees. We're going to see Krishna. We're going to be with Krishna eternally. Eternally. That's what this life is for. To become eternal again. To know the eternal again. Grantharaj Shrimadbhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada. He's the writer of the purports of the purport.